Hello and a very warm welcome to another edition of Talking Germany, the show where we do just that. And my guest today is the woman behind what most people here in Berlin would, I think, agree is the hottest theatre in town. And here she is, Shermin Langhoff. Yeah?
Hi, hello.
You liked that introduction, didn't you?
Of course I do. But I'm a little bit nervous, my first English talk show. So.
OK, let me introduce you just a little bit more and then we will get right down to the nitty-gritty. Now, the name of the theatre that I just mentioned, the theatre that Shermin actually runs, is Bauhaus Naunenstrasse here in Berlin. And it specialises in what they call post-migrant theatre. And I can tell you from my own experience that it is both very challenging and very good. So I think we can look forward to hearing what Shermin has to say about her own theatre and the following topics. On the edge, here in Germany, the arts are heavily subsidised. Nevertheless, a lot of highly talented people are struggling to survive. Language crime. Each year, Germany chooses the worst word of the year. This time round, it's Döner murders. Find out why. And tough choice. We take a close look at just what it means for members of Germany's large Turkish community to adopt German citizenship. Shermin, I've got to begin with that term that I used in my introduction there, post-migrant theatre.
Yes.
What is it?
It's just about that what postmodernity or other posts mean also, that you reflect critical on production and reception till now in theatre about migrants. So our aim was to develop stories which are not seenable, to bring protagonists on stage who are not seenable. So especially in German theatre, where you expect something else, not because it is one of the world's best, but also because it was after the Second War described as a political space, as a space where society can reflect itself. So that this space, this political space, doesn't search for these stories, doesn't tell the stories, and look on these new Germans. It was a lack, which we see.
So something was missing, and you're doing. That's it. You're doing pioneering work. You're doing theatre which describes lives that haven't so far been seen on German stage. It's very successful as well, because I mean, as far as I can tell, since you got going at Naunenstrasse at the Bauhaus in 2008,
that's it.
You've been sold out every night.
Almost.
Almost every night. Okay. And who is your audience?
I mean, this is, we know it since a year through a statistic, more or less. But 30% of the audience is neighborhood.
So people from your district,
from the district,
yeah?
Yes. 70% from all over Berlin. It is also special that we have as well from the East Berlin part, formal East Berlin part, and the West Berlin part audiences, and it is also special to other theatres maybe that we have in all ages a very high request, and also the last point maybe that there are a lot of people with other passports or parents with other passports.
Okay. But just one little point, because as far as I understand it, in the last year or so, you did one play which was called Verrücktes Blut, sort of crazy blood. Yeah? Yes. It was incredibly successful, and since then, I think your audience has changed a little bit. It's not so much now the locals, but the intellectuals are pouring in from other districts of the city.
Yeah, I mean, they were also inside before. Of course, after Damn or Crazy Blood, it was like a huge interest from an intelligentsia, but also before that and after that, there are a lot of scenes around in Berlin, and we are reaching a lot of them, so different scenes. And this is a pedagogical scene which is interested in out of the perspective of pedagogues who have to deal with daily problems.
Teachers and educators.
Then there is a political scene which is interested in critics and reflection of their work and their struggles. And there is also the well-known theatre scene, of course, which is inside. So we have this chance and this luck to address a lot of these scenes. And this is really great and fantastic and the best what can happen to a small city theatre.
Exactly. Okay. First impressions there from Shermin Langhoff. Here is more.
A few tickets are left for tomorrow's performance.
She's always right in the thick of things. Shermin Langhoff is the artistic director at the Ballhaus Nauningstrasse Theater in Berlin. Since she took the job in 2008, theatergoers have been lining up to get in. Her shows depict the life of immigrants and their children. This one tells the story of nearly 50 years of German-Turkish migration. It's something she can relate to. In the 1970s, Shermin Langhoff's mother came to Nuremberg as a migrant worker. Shermin, just 9 years old, came along too. Since 1998, the 42-year-old has lived in the Berlin district of Kreuzberg together with her husband, director Lukas Langhoff, and their daughter. Kreuzberg is a vibrant, multicultural district. And Shermin's always coming across stories she thinks belong on stage. Her theater is also just around the corner. Shermin Langhoff was born in 1969 in the city of Bursa in Turkey. After completing an internship in television, she worked as a recording and production manager. Later, she rose to become an assistant director and worked with directors like Fatih Akin. Langhoff knows how to spot and promote young talent. In 2011, she was awarded one of the most prestigious cultural prizes in Europe, the Karos Prize. She's someone who isn't afraid to touch on subjects some might consider taboo. That's clear from the play Verrücktes Blut by Nurkan Erpulat. Starring rebellious Muslim boys and headscarf-touting girls, the play reveals how the German educational system collides with the cliches of immigrant society.
Hey, you're insulting my mother. Bang.
Starting in 2014, she'll take over as head curator at one of the most renowned cultural festivals in Austria. But until the end of this year, she can be found at the Ballhaus Nauningstrasse Theater getting her hands dirty.
I can fit in 20 more people.
She's a visionary from the world of theater. And today, she's our guest on Talking Germany, Shermin Langhoff.
Well, that's what Shermin... You like that report, yeah?
I'm like that every time.
Let's go right back to your early days. 1978, you came to Germany.
Yes.
Yeah? In the back of a VW van, as I understand it.
Yeah.
What did you leave behind?
Oh, the sea. The sea, the Aegean Sea.
Because you come from a little coastal town, in western Turkey, yeah?
That's it, right opposite Lesbos, Aegean coast, and a really nice area with the sea and the mountain. And
sounds lovely,
yeah, the nature is incredible over there, and that's what I left. And of course I left my grandfather and my grandmother, which was my family.
So coming to Germany, would you describe it as a painful journey or as an adventure?
I mean, I was a child, you know, and it was an adventure in the beginning. It was just painful to lose my grandfather a few weeks later. And it seemed that he just waited till he doesn't have this responsibility anymore. And his cancer came out and we lost him. That was painful, but the journey by itself and also arriving in Germany was not painful because I was together with my mother. And I mean, that was an adventure also.
It's interesting that you were following your mother because very often the Turkish families would come to Germany to follow the menfolk to follow men who'd come to look for work in Germany, or is that not true?
That's a prejudice, I think, because especially in the 70s, from the stories that I know, especially also in Berlin, there were a lot of women who came here, depending on their requests for work in Germany, depending on their educations, diplomas. There was a lot of women who came first and took then the man behind.
Okay. Of the people who come, not just from Turkey, but from many countries around the world, who come to live in Germany, who migrate to Germany and who start new lives in Germany, some of them are very successful and some of them are less successful. What's the difference between those two groups?
I think it's as much heterogeneous as the society is.
So it's a very mixed picture.
Of course, and of course you have most of the people who came here were simple workers without a bigger education or deeper education, and you need codes to know. It's not only about language, it's also about behavior, it's also about society, it's about culture, rituals. You need codes to integrate.
You need people to point you in the right direction. You need people to crack the codes as well, to explain it to you.
You need to know the system. And for all this, of course, it's easier for you if you come with a few of these codes and if you come with a few of these abilities. I think that's what we are talking about. And also those unsuccessful people in a second, third or fourth generation, mostly it's about education and possibilities.
Yeah. Certainly you've been a great success, and also in that field of creating education, creating possibilities for other people around you. There is another theatre doing the same kind of thing as you're doing here in Berlin, at least one, in Neukölln, the Heimathafen. Yeah, but, well, OK, that's the way I see it, maybe as an outsider. But when I go to your theatre, when I go to that theatre, I think these are quite similar projects. My question, however, is you say it took an awful long time for these theatres to get going. Why did it take so long?
I don't think that there is one answer for it. It is really complex, but a few things. So the German theatre, also comparing to film and literature, doesn't go the way of beginning to support telling stories from the beginning on. So in literature, you have really from the 70s on the so-called migrant literature, which developed to a German literature. So there's a fourth writing, if you want. So, and you have today literature which is from migrant backgrounded people, but it doesn't interest at all. If you're reading Akif Pirinci with his criminal stories, so his origins are not that exciting in terms. In film, you have also a development. So it started maybe with Fassbinder and Katzelmacher, Angst fressen Seele auf. So seeing the world, Germany, from the point of the other, and developed to the first films of Tevfik Bashar and other protagonists, till a transcultural cinema of Fatih Akın. So you don't have this in theatre. And
Why not?
I mean, that's really a question, because on one hand, theatre became in Germany after the Second War described as a political space, as a space where society can reflect itself, especially, of course, the avant-garde of a society. And but this theatre doesn't interest, beside exceptions, of course, there were always exceptions, itself for the new Germans, for the others, for a part of the population. So on one hand, of course, it has to do with directors and dramaturgs and who were not interested in these topics, with a lack of also people who write these stories. And last but not least, maybe theatre is still one of the most avant-garde art forms, because if we look also from the German society, there's only 2% or 3% who are going to theatre. So if you don't have the viewers on the side, maybe you don't have also the interest for the stage on the other side. There are a lot explanations and possibilities to explain, but at least the missing interest.
Yeah, a lack of interest.
Yeah.
It's interesting stuff, yeah, very interesting. Now, I recently read that there are here in Germany, talking of theatres, that there are more than 6,000 stages across the country. It's a remarkable number. Shermin is actually nodding, so that fact must be somehow right, more or less right at least. And in part, it reflects the very high level of public funding that is still channeled into the arts. She's nodding again. However, as we see now, there are still a lot of performers, especially in the independent theatres, who earn so little that they're really struggling to make ends meet.
Uwe Moritz Eichler is 37 years old. He and his friends have established an independent theater in Berlin called the Ballhaus Ost. They didn't have any financial backing. While setting it up, he lived from unemployment benefits.
I couldn't have started the theater if I hadn't been drawing unemployment.
38-year-old actor Claudia Wiedemer is always on the lookout for work, despite having 2 children.
The fear of poverty is probably worse than the reality.
Hans-Werner Klohe is 40 years old. At the moment, he's taking time out from a career in dance and choreography.
It's a very restricted situation, especially if you happen to fall ill.
Artists always have to struggle to make ends meet. More than half live below the official poverty line. Those who work at the Hebel am Ufer, an independent theater in Berlin, know the problems all too well.
I've been working at the theater for 23 years, and during that time, pay in certain sectors has been cut in half.
The Ballhaus Ost has already made a name for itself, but the funding it now receives barely covers the rent. The founders considered ironically naming the unemployment office as a sponsor on programs, but decided that would be too embarrassing. After 6 years of non-stop work, Uwe Moritz is at his wit's end.
There comes a point where you ask yourself, how long can I take this? And how long can I afford to work in the independent theater scene?
Work is out there, but money is harder to come by.
The actors and set designers all have part-time jobs. At rehearsals, people are exhausted because they've worked a night shift. And then they're meant to concentrate on rehearsals for 6 hours the next morning. It doesn't work. It hurts the final performance.
Claudia Wiedemer isn't a typical German actress. She has children. 2 out of 3 German actresses don't have kids, often because they can't afford to.
It was very difficult after Marie's birth. Our bank account was empty, completely empty, and we had a load of debt. We sublet this flat and lived together in our office for 3 months. The 4 of us were living together in one room.
Even picking up extra work doesn't make a difference.
I used to fill the gaps by getting roles in TV series, but that's not an option anymore. The offers you get for television work nowadays are ridiculous. You get less than a trained monkey.
Around 1 million people work in the creative arts in Germany today, but only those who make it big earn big money. With its extensive cultural program, Berlin rakes in over 325 million euros annually, but the artists here see little of it. Hans-Werner Klohe has 20 years' experience as a dancer and choreographer. He has worked for some of the country's best-known figures, but now he's taking a different direction and studying the history of South Asian art. Too old to receive educational grants or stipends, he lives off his savings and part-time jobs. When artists have to struggle to make ends meet, then it often has a negative impact on their work.
There's this stupid image of the poor poet, and politicians think art will improve if they cut funding, but we're just like other people. If you earn reasonably, then you're better able to fulfill your potential. If you have 3 jobs and don't know when next you'll have your back against the wall, then that's a lot harder.
One or two very familiar faces for you there, Shermin. At the Ballhaus, your theatre, do you have poor actors?
Of course, I mean, not poor under the existence minimum, because we are one of the theatres which are paying better than the others. But mostly they have like a mixed calculation, shooting film, earning money there and giving it out in theatre.
I see. You've got a lot of young, inexperienced actors. How does that work? You've got a lot of people, you've got a lot of kids who are more or less playing themselves.
Yes and no, because we have, like in the most of the plays, we have educated actors, like others have also from Ernst Busch School as well as from other schools. But we have special projects, which we call Academy of Autodidacts, where we support and empower young, talented people in acting as well as in other parts of theatre to develop plays, to become actors. And in Verrücktes Blut, for example, in Crazy Blood, we have the teacher and one of the actors who are educated, and the others were really young talents who had a little bit stage experience before. But now all of them mostly are in schools or we changed a lot of the roles. So it's a concept which comes out because there were not enough actors, enough directors and enough writers for a post-migrant theatre. So the Academy of Autodidact helps a lot other people from other disciplines also. So I asked filmmakers and film directors to come over and to do theatre and yeah.
Okay, that's all. I tell you what, that's really remarkable, because I have to say for the viewers that Verrücktes Blut, when you go and see it, the kids on stage, the young men and women, they are absolutely remarkable.
Yeah,
if some of those don't have previous experience, that is amazing. However, you've been doing very good work at the Ballhaus, but this is your last year, effectively. You're going to be going off to Vienna, to the Vienna Festwochen, their annual sort of performing arts festival. It's very prestigious.
Yes, it is.
It's got
like the Olymp.
It's got a big budget, hasn't it? Has that been, has that been one reason why you're going?
It's the smallest of the representatives.
It's the smallest of the Champions League. Yeah?
Yes, but of course it's not comparable with the situation that we have in Ballhaus Nauninstraße, where we really have to acquire $1 million a year by ourselves with different fundings, and where we have only small basic money, and where we hope that we will overlive also next year.
But you didn't answer my question. You're going to Vienna because there's a big budget. It helps.
The big budget helps, but I don't think that bedeutend. How
the meaning, the significance.
That meaningful art is depending on money.
Okay, point taken. We're going to go, we just mentioned Vienna, we're going to come back to Germany. Germany has recently been shaken by revelations that a neo-Nazi terrorist group apparently killed 9 people of Turkish and Greek origin in a series of hate crimes between 2000 and 2006. Now, some sections of the media, both here in Germany and elsewhere, they talked disrespectfully of what were called the Döner murders, because some of the victims worked in snack bars actually selling Döner kebabs. Now, each year, the Association of the German Language does something very interesting. It nominates its most despicable word of the year. And not too long ago, the worst word for 2011 was announced, and you've guessed, it was Döner murders.
The Döner kebab is a popular street snack in Germany, but media and police have adopted the word to describe a series of racist murders carried out by a neo-Nazi gang. Now, the word Döner Morde Döner murders has been voted the worst German word of 2011.
It ticks nearly all of the boxes and is also deceptive, discriminatory, and defamatory. In 2011, it was exposed for what it really is.
A survey in the city of Kaiserslautern showed that not everyone can get their heads around the word.
The Döner murders?
A new crime thriller.
Those were the murders by the right-wing extremists, mainly in the Ruhr region.
The Döner murders? For me, that means nothing more than a poorly made kebab.
The murder of kebab shop owners.
I don't have anything to do with kebabs. I've never eaten one.
Abdullah Kilic works at a large Turkish snack bar in Kaiserslautern. He followed the selection of the worst word of 2011 with great interest.
Döner murders sounds a bit like something to do with snack bars. And the fact that such a tragedy has been connected with fast food is a real shame.
We can only hope the unenviable award of worst word will help people understand the power of language.
Yeah, we hope.
Yeah, we certainly hope, yeah. It's a terrible series of crimes, yeah? Maybe there's more to come. There's all sorts of revelations that keep coming out. And then we've got this terrible term, Döner murders. What do you think when you hear that term?
I mean, what shall I think? I thought about what would happen when in Turkey there would be a series of murdering Germans, Christians. What happens in exceptions, but not like this. And the police, the Secret Service will call them like the group for researching these delicts, instead of Bosporus, maybe Spree, and to call it like currywurst murder, murders. I mean,
the kind of sausages that you hear in Germany, if they were to reduce it to that level.
Of course, it is really anti-humanistic and not worth to talk about if it wouldn't used by the media in those forms. So what I realized is also after the NSU comes out.
This is the group, the terrorist group that has been behind these attacks.
And the series came out. Spiegel wrote still Dönermorde.
So the premier news magazine was still using Döner killings, Döner murders.
16 times in one article, I counted. And they also legitimate in this article that they use this word, where it comes from.
So they justified it, they said it's all well and good.
That's it. And I mean, this
that disappoints you?
Yes, of course it does. I mean, what is that for a view, for an ethic eye, which we need in terms of responsibility, which media, but also, of course, before the media, the institutions have to carry. And I mean, the Secret Service and the police by themselves, they start with that mafia things and suggestions.
Just about the media, yeah. I've heard you complaining in the past, and I think I can imagine why, because people from the media have come to you and said, let's talk about your view of the world as a Muslim.
Yeah, that's very funny. I mean, I am born as a Muslim. That's usual in Turkey. But I'm not practicing religion and I'm not a believing person. I define myself as an agnostic. And yeah, it's funny that I became an Islam specialist and expert.
It's very ironic, isn't it? Yeah, that you're the expert. You have, in your role as an expert, however, you've used a term which I found very interesting, neo-Muslim. What's that?
I mean, that was exciting for me also as an agnostic and knowing Islam from the traditional side of my grandmother and others who lived it. It was very exciting to me to come to Germany, especially in the bigger cities, especially Berlin, and to see these young girls between 16 and 22 having really incredible sexy outfits, incredible sexy shoes, high heel shoes, maked up, like I am today for TV or more, and then a headscarves. And I didn't see this in Turkey. It was not the ritual, and it was not.
It's happening in Turkey now, though, isn't it?
Maybe now, but it was for me, when I saw this 10 years before, it was really for me the beginning of a subculture in Europe, in a European metropole. So it's born here or in London or not in Istanbul. And of course it has complex reasons to show yourself, to act and react also. But we were interested in that neo-Muslims, that's how we called them. Yeah. And we researched and did interviews with them, and the play Black Virgin came out in 2007.
Very good play too, yeah. OK, for people who migrate from one country to another, one way to play a full role in their adopted homeland is to apply for citizenship. And the number of people applying to become German citizens currently stands at about 100,000 a year. We have this report.
Koskun Kostur runs a traditional Turkish bath in Hamburg. He's lived in the city for 31 years and started out there as a machine operator. Even in those early days, he was politically active and a trade union member. Now he wants to become a German citizen.
Because I see myself as part of society and also feel like part of it, I want to help decide things too. For me, that was one of the main reasons. I passed the qualifying exam without a single mistake, which I think many Germans wouldn't be able to do.
Yelis Yildirim already has that behind her. She was born in Hamburg and is now the proud owner of a certificate of naturalization. The city authorities issued over 5,600 of them last year, and Hamburg's Senate wants to increase that number.
When many people decide to become German citizens and citizens of Hamburg, it's a sign of commitment to our society and life here. That's probably the biggest advantage that it gives us.
Anyone resident in Germany for at least 8 years with an income and no criminal record can become a citizen. Knowledge of the language and an oath of allegiance are also required. The Turkish community welcomes it, but regrets that naturalized German citizens usually lose the citizenship of their country of birth.
They bring something with them as well. If you have an immigrant background, it doesn't just mean that your ancestors immigrated here at some point in the past. It's also a piece of culture and tradition that you live with and that presents no danger to Germany. It's enrichment.
Koskun Kostur will soon become a German. Then he'll finally be able to cast his vote in elections and do even more for his chosen city and country.
We saw that green certificate of citizenship in the report there. You have one of those. You got yours in 1991. I have one as well that I've had for a number of years. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. 2 Germans sitting here, yeah. Why did you do it?
I mean, it was the possibility with 21 to get it very easy, and it was no questions about to take the German citizenship. I used to live here for so long time, and for me, it is a commitment to a political idea of a republic and a democracy, and not so there were no more questions about.
But there are very many members of the Turkish community, I mean of other communities as well, but there are very many members of the Turkish community who have qualms about taking German citizenship. They could do, but they don't.
Most of them because they can't hold their origin citizenship, so because there's not the possibility to have both passports, and this is a problem. I think this possibility should give in, so then
you think
they will all come over.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is if you give dual citizenship to people like you. I mean, I've got dual citizenship. Yeah. I'm British and I'm German. And really, in just the same way, you should have Turkish-German citizenship, I suppose. It's got to do with the EU. But if you do give dual citizenship to members of the Turkish community, then you would have to anybody else who's applying for citizenship to Germany. Or not?
It's not the same. I mean, we are talking about history, and we are talking about 60 years migration of Turks here. Beside the story that European Union would do the best for itself, and they would take Turkey as soon as possible inside. But I think you have to give people the possibility to do this commitment for the city and for the area they live in, and for Germany, and to let them also the possibility of their first passports.
Okay. Well, talking about migration, talking about integration and citizenship, one of the most popular plays that Shermin has recently put on at the Ballhaus is a play. We saw it in the first report called Le Bal Allemagne, which brings to life 5 decades of German social history from the perspective of migrants. And before the two of us talk about it, let's have another look at a short extract.
die deutsche Staatsbürgerschaft anzunehmen. Sie haben Vor- und Nachteile abgewogen und sind letztlich zu der Entscheidung gelangt, ich möchte Deutscher werden. Das finde ich super. Deutschland ist ein Rechtsstaat. Was ist damit gemeint? Also ich muss schon sagen, das sind jetzt hier grundlegende Informationen über Deutschland, die Sie wissen müssen, nicht nur wegen der Staatsbürgerschaft.
You were just telling me that if I have time, I should come and see the play. I've been, and I would go again. It's interesting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my wife, she went along one week, and she said, "You are coming along next week," and she was there again watching it. Yeah, it's a musical in many ways, isn't it? Yeah.
Indeed. So it was the inspiration of Le Bal of Ettore Scola.
A great film.
Talking the last 50 years of Europe in his movie, and we thought to talk about the last 50 years migration of Anatolians.
Yep. And tell our viewers, tell our viewers how it begins, the play, each evening.
Each evening the play begins with actors and actresses sitting in a cafe, like a room, in a Ballhaus, the same opposite, and the viewers are sitting there, and they are 5 minutes long looking to each other.
Silence,
5 minutes long, and so looking back.
They're looking at each other. Yeah. It was very. I mean, there's nothing happens on stage. You're looking at the actors. They're looking at you. Yeah. And they start, occasionally one of them scratches his or her nose, or, rattles a coffee cup or something like that, And then you begin to do this, Yes. And what's it all about? It was incredibly uncomfortable.
But it is about uncomfortability. So, because we thought it is so much worth to us, this 50 years, the experiences, the traumas of our parents, that we don't want to give it just as a amuse-gueule or
a little taste.
A little taste. We just wanted to bring ourselves as actors, but also the audience, to a concentration, to a look for each other, and to see everything what is there. And now we are here. Now we can start with the story.
And you must have had in mind. I mean, the play came out at a time which was precisely the anniversary of 50 years of course of the agreement between Germany and Turkey to bring Turkish workers to Germany. It was marking that anniversary.
Yeah, we did a big festival also for that anniversary, and produced that play 1 year before to show it then.
Would you describe the whole process of Turkish migration to Germany? Yeah, it's sometimes been painful. It's been going on for a long time. As you just said to me, it's history.
Yeah,
it's German history now. Would you describe it as a success story?
Yes, I would do, of course. I mean, Germany is a success story after the Second War, and the Turks are one of the fundaments of this success.
One of the scenes, that's a good answer, a wonderful answer. Yeah. One of the scenes in the play is about the test that people now have to do when they're applying for citizenship to Germany. It was decided that people who want to become German citizens have to prove that they know enough about Germany. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever looked at the test yourself?
Yeah, I saw, of course, a lot of that questions because when we wrote the play and developed the play, we watch out which questions do we want to take in. So.
Yeah. Do you think you would pass the test yourself these days?
I think I
You
would.
think so? Yeah.
Yes.
I was really nervous. I had to say, I clicked on it the other day and I did the first 10 questions. I got them all right, I have to say, but I was nervous.
That's
One or
what
two
I
of them I was. Yeah.
Mr. Craven.
We had the very successful, Yasmin Shamdarelli here on the show, the successful Turkish filmmaker recently, and she was complaining, she said that there's not enough in the German media about all the people like me who are successful.
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah? Just briefly, why don't you do more theatre about successful people?
We are doing theatre about successful people. I mean, this is really important to the Bauhaus. We are working on conflict zones. This is exciting for theatre. Conflicts are exciting for theatre. That's why maybe it's not mostly the successful, the so-called successful. But we are adapting the fairy tale of the last toad of Edgar Hilsenrath, which is about the Armenian genocide and doesn't have to do with success or not success.
But heavy, weighty, historical
yes,
stuff.
Of course. But on the other side, we have, of course, in terms of we don't do the ghetto stories, even not in the Verrücktes Blut, Crazy Blood, which you show.
We've got to wind up.
Okay. But come and see the successful stories also in the Bauhaus.
That'll be my next visit to the Bauhaus, yeah? Yasmin Shamdarelli has been... Shermin Langhoff has been a wonderful guest here on the show. If you've enjoyed our company as much as I have, do come back next week. We haven't got time for the quiz. I'm just going to say bye-bye and tschüss.